Hello everybody. In this episode we're going to show you how to leverage and maximize a search tool that you can put on your website, and you can figure out the behavior that people are performing. I'll get into that in a little bit, but I do encourage you to watch the video all the way through to the end. This one's a little bit longer than my normal 5-minute videos. I probably will do about 10 to 15 minutes on this video because I want to show you both Facebook in collecting data and Google Analytics. Okay, so let's get started here. So on this website, I have a search for recipes. So we have several campaigns running for this client where we're driving people to the recipe page, but the question really becomes, what other recipes are the site visitors looking for? For example, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to type in, let's say, apple. Okay, so I'll type in apple and then I'll search for the recipe. Here we go. So I get an apple recipe up. But now let's take a look at what really has happened here. So first I'm going to start with Google Analytics. Okay, go up here to my tab and jump to my analytics. I'm going to look at the real-time view and events. So I'm going to explain this here. Okay, what I've done is, and you can see here, there's one. I'm doing this kind of early in the morning, so there's only one active user on the website right now, and the active user is me, and I did a recipe query now. So I've done some things on the back end of the system with Google Tag Manager, which I'll show, that records anytime someone invokes a query search for a recipe. I'm not just capturing the fact that it's a recipe query and that the event is a search, but I'm also collecting what they looked for. Okay, so I want you to take your imagination on this. This is really great for folks that are maybe in the automotive industry, the real estate industry, or if you have a search engine on your website and you're trying to figure out what people are looking for. You know, when people are searching, you might not have the specific items they're looking for, but wouldn't it be great to learn what a site visitor was looking for? So in our case, I happen to have an apple recipe, but if I didn't have an apple recipe, let's go back up here, go to tabs, go back to my recipe here. I think I can hit the back button. Let me see if I can go back here really quick. Yeah, perfect. Alrighty, so I'm back, and let's type in something I know I don't have. Let's type in potato, maybe potato. Type in a potato. I don't think I have any potato recipes, so there was an error. We apologize for any return. Blah, 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 blah. We're going to change this, make this a little bit more friendly. But I don't have potato. Okay, so let's now go take a look at Google Analytics. And as you can see here, it's captured the potato. Okay, so what do we get? Well, now we're learning about the behavior of a site visitor, right? So let's scroll down. Let's go to behaviors in Google Analytics. Let's look at my active events. Let's look at top events. So I have different events firing off on the page. I have people that are doing stuff in the shop. This was my initial one. I ended up changing this search query to recipe query so it would stand out. So let's just look at recipe query. Look under the search, and let me see. Get some. I don't have the 8th in here. Let's change my date range. Apply. And I should get apple. Potato will load in soon. It lags behind a little bit because it's tracking, but I would have a list here. Let me go back to see if I can get last 30 days. Okay, and apply. Oops. And we'll apply that. Apply. Let's take today's date too. Okay, what I get here is a list of basically search queries. Now, what can I do with that? A lot of good stuff. I'm going to show you really quick, just from the Google Ads, from using Google Analytics again and Google Ads. Okay, so let's jump over to. I'm going to go to Admin, and I'm going to go into audience definitions, audiences, and I'm going to create a new audience that can collect some of this event data. So new audience. Doesn't matter. I can hit create new. I'm going to go down to conditions. I'm going to filter by users, include. I'm going to type in event, and I can basically look up from behavior. I can get the event label, I can get a specific action like a search, or I can get the category, which is recipe query. I'm probably for Google, I'm gonna look for anyone who did just to start off that my event contains recipe query. Okay. Then I can do an or if I want to, so I can build this group up. But I recipe query, I did that on purpose so that I could find any event that was fired off that contains a recipe query. So I hit apply. I can keep my membership, how long they stay in this group. I'm really going to go all the way out. I need to build a healthy list right now. So this is recipe query, okay. And then next step, I'm going to save it to my Google Ads account and then publish. Okay, so now I have that saved. Let's take a look at Facebook really quick. Go up here, tab. First, I'm going to look at the Facebook pixel so that you can get a good look at what's going on. So recipe query again is inside the Facebook pixel. I'm tracking two events that are coming off a recipe query. I'm right over here. I think it might be one of these. It's down here low. One of these graph bars represents the event for recipe query. It's kind of low in traffic right now because I literally just created this, but we have recipe query. Now, what's the purpose of this? So the person's done a search. Let's go up to tab and let's go to audiences. And so if I wanted to create a new audience, and I go with a custom audience, and I go with website traffic from my pixel, I'm looking for a specific event. Recipe query is on the list. Now I can do all sorts of good stuff here. I got up to 180 days. I can look for anyone who has triggered the recipe query event and build an audience for them. So let's do the same thing in Facebook, and then I'm going to just say this is my recipe query people again. Okay, so it'll build an audience of those. I'm going to go ahead and create that audience. Done. That's going to be a small audience because it only has 2 in there. I'm not going to get much out of it, but let me go back to that for a minute. Website again, recipe query. Using Google Analytics, I can refine the query string is what I'm passing here, and say that the query string contains, and then I can put apple as one word, or I can put not bacon, that would be awful for my client, coconut in here, and I can really pack on, these are ors, and make it so that I'm looking for anyone who's in the recipe query that executed a search whose query string was apple or coconut. Now, okay, so I spent about 10 minutes or so here going over that notion. Now what I want to do is kind of give you a little preview as to how we make all that happen. I believe I can jump into that. Yes, I can. Google Tag Manager, okay? So in Google Tag Manager, and if you don't have this implemented in your site, you need help, please let me know, because this is a must-have, okay? What I'm doing here, let's just start with Facebook to begin. So for Facebook, I have a custom. I have a script that does a tracking of the custom, recipe query, the query string, and then there's a search text E. This little, what's called a variable, and this is a little bit complicated, but again, I just want you to get the sense of how this is done. This variable, I know how to write JavaScript, so I wrote a custom JavaScript that takes the search query and looks for. I've learned a little bit about how the structure of the website is built and the ID elements that get triggered. So I'm basically in here pulling back what's in that text block. There's several ways to do it. This here is the easiest way for me to pull the element that has been typed in back into to put it in what's called a variable. So it gets held and then it gets passed along when the following condition triggers. And the trigger condition is search form, which basically form ID contains search form. So when someone inputs something into the search form, hits that search button, this is when my event fires off, and I have two events or tags connected to it. And this, I know this is a little bit above most, but I just want you to see the mechanics of it. This is passing to Google Analytics. The type is event, the category is recipe query, the action is search, and there's that text again going into the client's Google ID. So there's a lot of little pieces here, but this is the perfect way to facilitate taking a search tool that's on the website and getting that search tool to pass back parameters into Google Analytics so that you can build audiences that are based on people who have visited the page, pass it into Facebook so that you can build audiences of people who did those searches as well. And it's highly targeting because, like I said, if you can just take your imagination and think of real estate or automotive industries just as a simple example, and if I was looking for a particular city to buy a home in, and I put in the city name, and you didn't have houses in that city at the time, but you collect all this data about the behavior. It's all about getting the behavior of your site visitors. These are called events, and that's how the whole thing works. You get to track what they're doing. Mind reading. Thanks.